In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a decentralized application using Point Network and deploy it to the Point Network alpha version. So in this video, what we'll do is we first of all go to the wiki, which is pointnetwork.github.io, and you click on this build tab here. Then you expand development guide and go down to Zap development without Docker. And these are the instructions that we're going to follow. As you can see, it requires some dependencies to be installed, in particular MVM, that's Node Version Manager, and Node.js itself. So if you go ahead and install MVM following the instructions here, and then go ahead and install Node.js version 14 like so, and then come down to this section here. Now I've already installed MVM and Node.js, and I'll flip over to my console here and show you that. So let's check in the console here. We've got MVM version and Node version 14.17.5. Right, let's flip back to the wiki and we scroll down to the part where it says install Point Network dependencies. And so here what we're doing is we're installing the Point Engine repo, the Point Contracts repo, and then the dependencies using this install script. So the first thing is to pull down the Point Engine repo. This repo is called Point Network, but we actually call it Point Engine. So I'll let that download and install. Okay, now that's downloaded, we can install or download the next repository, which is the Point Contracts. So we copy and paste that and let that install. That's much faster, smaller repository. And then we need to change directory into Point Network. And as you can see, it automatically loads in version 16 of Node due to this NVMRC file here. So let's take a look at the code. We can open up the code editor like this, and we can bring the code editor across into view. And one thing I want to show you is the bash alias file, this file here, because we're going to, in the instructions it says to source this file, and I just want to show you what this is. It's just a list of alias commands that help make the development process and the installation process easier. We're not going to be using all of these commands. Some of them are for Docker, which we're not using in this case, but just to bear in mind, if you want to take a look at what this is, you can do so here. So the next instruction was to source this. That means to bring this into the session. So bash alias. And now all of those aliases are inside and loaded into this terminal session. And then if we go back here, we can see the last command of this section is to run point-def-install. And again, we can actually check what that is in the code here. Point-dev-install is an alias for running this script here, create local environment. And you can take a look at that. And you can see for yourself what this does, just in case you want to check what is going on. But essentially, it's going to install Ganache. It's going to install AR local. It's then going to change directory into the Point Contracts repo that we downloaded, and it's going to clean things up and install the contracts, and then it's going to create some local environments and copy in some keys into those environments, and so on and so forth, and create these templates. And yeah, there's just a bunch of things that happen in the installation, and of course it's always worth checking what's happening before you run anything. But I'm going to run this command now, so here we go. Okay, awesome. That's built installed and built everything that we need to get started. So let's head back over here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. In the next section is to start the Point services by running this command here, point-dev-start. So let's clear the screen and we'll run that command. And this will start up the local Ganache, local we've called our local, AR local. It will creates a couple of accounts and fund them with some Ethereum that we can use locally. And it's going to deploy the contracts, and it's done. So that's the services have started. You can see the process by typing pgrep node. You can see two processes. One is basically Ganache and the other one is AR local. Now we can start the point network node or the point network engine. So I'll paste the command into the terminal, point-dev, to start the point engine in dev mode. When you see this output, it means the node is running. The last two GET requests that you can see here are sending some instructions to mint tokens on the AR local node so that we can push files to our locally running node for Arweave. Moreover, the contracts are already deployed, the blockchain is running. So this, when you see this, it means that everything is running. You can see that the proxy is running on 0.65501. You can see some output from the blockchain as well. So you just keep this window open and keep it running. And in fact, you'll need another window open. So you can, however you do in your own terminal, just create another window like this. I can just split the pane and create another window. So I can work with this one here. So the next thing we're going to be doing, and the next step here, is to deploy the example dapp, which is the template example dapp. So there's a link to the GitHub repo here. You can open it up and take a look. But we're going to basically follow these instructions here to clone and run through these steps here. What this does is it clones the template dapp to a folder that's literally one level below the point network engine. We go into that, we run npm I npm run build because the template app is a React application. And then we go back to the node and we deploy it. So let's take a look. We're going to here, I'll make this a full screen. And what we'll do is we will take a look at what we've got here. We're going to go into point network. Now, if you need to, you have to source the bash alias again. I've, by the way, copied everything in this alias into my bash RC so that it loads every time. So I don't have to do this, but I've done this for demo purposes. And then I'm going to run this command here, this line here that clones the template project into the folder just below this one. So it's not, I'm not cloning into this folder, I'm cloning one folder down. So if I go back and then list the directories, you'll see template point is now in here. Now I can open this up using my code editor, and as you can see, it's a React.js application. I'm not going to go into the details of how this is built. This can be done for another video, or you can dig into it in your own time. The point is that it's a standard React application with, of course, a few differences, which again we'll go into later, but one of them is this point.deploy.json, which is required for point network. But mostly it should be familiar territory. Okay, so we're supposed to be running npm I and npm run build here. This is, as I said, because it's a React.js application, so we need to install the dependencies and build the application ready for deployment. Again, this is no different to a standard React application. It's basically building the application, minifying it and putting it into the public folder. And that's the folder that we deploy. So as you can see here at the output, we can see that it's built the application, and we can take a look at the files actually. And you can see everything is there, the minified files and everything that we want to deploy for our dapp. So we can go back into point network folder. Okay, like so. And let's take a look at the instructions just so that we follow along here. And so we're up to here now. So we've done that. And now all we have to do is deploy. So we'll use this command, point-deploy. And then we basically pass in the directory of the dapp that we want to deploy. So it's one level down and it's template.point. So that's the directory of the dapp. And then this flag here, --contracts, just simply means we want to deploy this dapp, and we also want to deploy the contracts as well to the blockchain. So for this command, I'm going to just show the other window as well, this one here, so that you can see that deployment. So let's run this now. And you'll see the output down here, and you'll also see the output up in the node. That's because the node is receiving the instructions to deploy. It's deploying the dapp to our local as well as to Ganache. And when it's finished, you should see an output like this to say that there's deployment is done. And you'll see output up here as well to say that everything looks okay, status 200. So basically, if you don't see an error, any errors, it should have worked successfully. So that is how you deploy a dapp to your local environment. But how do you open the dapp in your local environment and interact with it? That's the next step. So if we go down here, continue on with these instructions, you can see here, open the deployed template dapp in the owner point browser. So I call this the owner point browser because we are going to basically log in or authenticate ourselves as the owner of this dapp. So once again, we need to go into point network. We need to source the bash alias, which, as I mentioned, you don't have to do if you put the aliases in your bash RC. And then we need to clone another repository. This time it's the point SDK repository. So let's do that in this terminal window down the bottom here. Let's clear this out and run this command to clone point SDK. Notice again, I'm cloning into the folder directly below this one. So if I go back one and list the folders, you can see point SDK is there. So let's go into that and clear that out. And you can open up the code editor as always and just take a quick look. Again, I'm not going to dive through the code in this case, but this is essentially an extension for, it's a browser extension for the modified Firefox that we run in Point Network. So you can take a look at that. Let's go back to the wiki. And what we want to do is we want to run npm use. Well, that happened automatically on my machine. So then we can run npm I and npm run build to compile the extension. So npm run build. Okay. Awesome. That looks like it's built the extension. In this case, it puts it in a folder called dist prod. So dist and then prod. And you can see the output there. Again, nothing to really be concerned about right now unless you want to start to contribute to the project. But for now, what we want to do is deploy this. Well, actually, we've already deployed it. We want to run this in our browser. So the next thing is to install WebEXT version 660. And we do that by installing it as a global dependency using npm i-g. This is a utility that basically will automatically install the plugin into a running Firefox browser. This just makes it a lot easier to open up the Firefox browser with this custom extension already embedded into it so that we can then use the modified version of Firefox to interact with our locally running point engine node. So that's installed, we clear that away. And the final step is to run point browser owner. Okay, now point browser owner is another alias, and note I'm running this alias inside the point SDK folder, not the point network folder or the point engine folder, right? This is inside point SDK. This is because it uses WebEXT to load the extension into the browser. So let's run that and see what happens. And here we go. And it's worked. As you can see, this has opened up a browser. It's a Firefox browser, and it loads up Point. And this, in turn, will open up, will make a request, I should say, to the node running on port 8666. And so, in fact, what I can do is I can open the other terminal window, and we can just see, if I hit refresh here, you'll see lots of request logs going through the node, the locally running node here. Now you might be wondering, okay, where's my template app? Well, if you click on apps, you'll see the list of deployed apps, and if you click on template, it opens up a page that shows you the app's metadata, the owner of the app, which happens to be this wallet address here. This is one of the wallet addresses, what we call the owner address, that's deployed automatically in the development environment that we set up previously. To open up the deployed dapp, you just click the link here, and this is it. This is the deployed template app. Now, what this is and what this demonstrates is essentially how you can build or get started building your own dapps. So this is using React. This is how you can connect and get the wallet address here. We're getting the version of Point SDK and the version of the node that's running. We can click on components and see different examples of components. This is mostly UI stuff here. But here's the interesting one, is interacting with the contracts. And here I load some data directly from the contracts. The contract is queried for the data, and the actual contents is then fetched from our local. This is essentially exactly how the dapp can interact when it's deployed to Ynet. And this is the next thing that we're going to be doing, because what you can do at this point, now that you have this contract and this dapp downloaded, is you can modify it. So you can basically copy this code, copy the template.point code into another folder, and you can call it whatever you like. Call it my amazing dapp.point, right? And modify the contents, modify the React application, rebuild it, and redeploy using pretty much the same approach we just did, except you want to deploy your own app, and that will be what you can test and build iteratively in this local environment. So the question now is, okay, now we have everything running locally, how do we deploy to Ynet? And that's what we'll be covering next.